What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, we're going to talk about why I don't call jiu-jitsu the G word. If you guys read my post recently, you might know what the G word is, but if you haven't, I'd like you to think about what the G word might be. So let's just do in that one. Big thanks to our sponsor, Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web is the CBD that I use every single night. So when I'm getting ready to wind down for the day, it's part of my nightly routine. I take some Charlotte's Web CBD. Right now I'm taking the tincture. I'm taking it's like the lime or like lemon twist tincture. And I take I don't take a full, I take like a good, what is it? It's like, I've got the 60 milligram.
Yeah, probably take a,
and I take a half.
Yeah.
Because if I take 60, I'm down for the count. Like if I really like don't want to wake up the next morning,
give me that 60.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if you've had that effect. Like when I take a lot of CBD, it's like, I mean, it knocks me out, but then I am, it's like I'm kind of groggy the next day. But I will say this,
I'm good.
But I like it. And the other thing, I've just recently started getting back into my dieting, lifting, and jiu-jitsu program. So I'm kind of really ramping it back up. And it's one of those things where whenever I start cutting a little bit of weight while I'm training, I get like a little bit more, especially when I'm lifting. This program's kicking my butt because it's new to me. So my body's like, it's brand new. Like it's some of the exercises are a little bit higher rep and stuff. So I'm like burning me up. The balms that they're CBD, or what is it? The CBD Medic balms. Yeah. So those are the ones I use. I don't really look on the label very often. I just like take it out and rub it on. So my shoulders, especially my shoulders and knees and stuff like that, it definitely helps out. And so again, I encourage anybody to try it out to see if they have the same effects that I have. It's been really helpful with both my sleep patterns and also my just inflammation in the body related to training hard. I mean, again, we're doing something where we yank on each other's joints, and then if you lift weights, you're putting pressure in your joints. It's nice to have something to help, again, just with the inflammatory process that comes as a result of the sports that we do. And it was a game changer for me a few years ago, and I've been using it ever since. If you guys would like to check it out, you can go to their website at charlottesweb.com. Promo code is Chewjitsu, and you'll save 15% on the order. On all the products. And also thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. EpicRollBJJ.com is the website. Finalizing everything with Matt to start getting the dates ready for the Jiu-Jitsu rash guard shorts. Pre-sale. Yeah. So we're going to be doing a pre-sale. So it's going to be one of those things where I don't like to have like lots of stock left around. So I like to make them, print them. And plus I like to do new stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm very much one of these people that's like, just like in jiu-jitsu, I like to throw new moves into the mix. It makes it fun. Like it makes it fun for me to like come up with new ideas, new products and things like that, new designs. And so we're going to run this order coming up soon. We'll keep you updated on the when that happens, but it's going to be a pre-sale. So after the pre-sale's over, that'll be it for them. So make sure you're keeping your ears and eyes peeled and following either here on the podcast or on Instagram. Wherever. But again, Matt makes a lot of really good jiu-jitsu gear and equipment, everything from t-shirts and apparel to rash guard shorts and like equipment that you're going to wear when you train. I love his shorts. Again, that's for me, like when I made the Origin gi last year, I wanted to do one with Origin because I love their gis. It's my favorite gi.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's such a good gi. I love the pants. I was like, I want to make a jiu-jitsu version of this to share with people. Because when you think about what it is that I do, what we do here in the podcast, basically it's like I'm finding good ideas and things like that have been useful to me, or finding interesting people and figuring out what's been useful to them and then sharing with you guys. And so that's what I do with the equipment. I find stuff that I like that feels high quality and that supports me in my training, and then I'm like, hey, this works really well for me, this might work well for you as well. So be on the lookout for that. But again, I love all this stuff. So if you can check out all of his gear and equipment at EpicRollBJJ.com, promo code Jiu-Jitsu, save 15% on the order on anything that you buy there. And then also, thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped. Manscaped is the premier, I don't want to say below the belt anymore, I want to say premier men's grooming company. They make a lot of amazing equipment, stuff that smells good, that's durable, that works. Again, I'm a big fan of their stuff. They sent us packages. I really wasn't sure at first. They sent us the box of stuff, and before we added them as a sponsor to the podcast, I was like, let me try this stuff out. Let me see if it works. And last night, so when I'm dieting, I've got to take like before and after pictures. And so, as part of my so when I have to send pictures weekly to my coach, so he can see how the progress is working. So he can like look at the diet and say, okay, you're losing weight, or, you're getting better, the composition's better. So we'll keep on this diet, or we'll adjust things. And so because of that, I want to make sure that they can get a good picture. I'm a hairy man. So I get fluffy. If I didn't manscape myself, I would end up having like a big thick unibrow, and then my beard would connect to my unibrow, and then it would just go straight all the way down to my toes. Now I don't have like carpet back or anything like that. I just got like, you know what I'm talking about. I don't have carpet back, and I'm not excessively hairy, but I'm just like, I'm like lightly hairy everywhere. And so
you don't take your shirt off and you have a sweater on underneath.
No, nothing like that. Although I haven't let my hair, since I was like, the last few years, I haven't let my body hair just grow out for like a year.
See what happens.
So see what happens. Yeah. But Jess doesn't like me that hairy. So she trims me up. And so it was funny. They have the lawnmower.
Yes.
And it's a trimmer, right? So you can trim your beard with it. You can trim your balls with it too, if you want to. And it has a light on it. And I remember the first time I saw that light, I was like, this is stupid. Like, why do you need a light? But it's interesting where she was shaving me like my back last night, and she was like, oh my God. She's like, she just kind of mentioned it in passing. She's like, I just love this light. She's like, it's so good about getting all the stray hairs.
Yeah.
Because you miss some. And so it's a neat little gadget. And again, all the products that I've used, I've been thoroughly happy with, from the colognes and the smells of all the balms and everything that they have, to the razors that they have, to the trimmers, the nose trimmers, and everything else. And so again, if you'd like to check out any of their products for yourself, or for a man in your life who would like to be able to groom themselves with amazing equipment, you can go to manscaped.com. Promo code is Chewjitsu20. You save 20% on the order, and you get free shipping. It's a good deal. So with that said, guys, oh, I was going to get ready to jump into the podcast, but I forgot. If you guys want to join my email newsletter and get 2 free ebooks, one on drilling strategies that you can implement, as well as a jiu-jitsu game plan, you can go to my website, chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get a buttload of extra content we've been recording for over 2-3 years now, guys, it's been a long time, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast, and you can get access to all of that as well. So with that said, guys, let's jump into the podcast and talk about the G word. What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, I wanted to chat about an idea. I posted this the other day, and it was interesting to see the feedback from some of the people, but I know not everybody that's on the podcast follows those other channels. And I figured it would be worthwhile to sort of talk out the idea a bit. So I don't refer in this idea. So I'll say, I don't refer to the jiu-jitsu as this word. I never really have. I've maybe used it a couple times in the videos, and I really honestly have never really heard it used before until like the last number of years, like maybe 5-6 years. And that word is the grind, right? When I first started jiu-jitsu, nobody called it the grind. Like, it was tough. It was hard work. It's very difficult, but nobody referred to it as the grind. And I've never really, in my head, like I said, I've used it a couple of times in videos, but I've never really referred to it as the grind, because honestly, I've never really referred to anything that I enjoy as a grind. When I think of a grind, I think about maybe some old jobs I didn't like, where I was working specifically for an end result rather than anything else in between, right? So I would work a job. I didn't like that job, but I would work the job because I wanted the paycheck. So I would grind it out Monday through Friday, get that paycheck, and then it was like, woo, it's Friday, right? And so I think that's the difference. So to me, it's like to go into the gym. It's not a grind to go hang out with friends. It's not a grind to play a game, which jiu-jitsu and rolling is a game. It's not a grind to exercise and learn new skills. It's not a grind to have worthwhile goals to strive for. It doesn't mean it's not difficult. I've just never viewed jiu-jitsu as that goal. And I think it's also one of the reasons why I've never really even considered quitting, because why would I quit something that I enjoy so many things from? I'm not doing jiu-jitsu simply to get better at it. Like, I enjoy the moment to moment, the interactions and everything about it. I enjoy all that stuff. So, even when I was like training, I was getting my butt whooped and whatever for months. I never even contemplated quitting, because I was like, well, why would I quit? I enjoy this. Like, who says I'm supposed to get this good or that good? I like training. And I think this is a big deal, because when I get a lot of questions from people, they get into this trap, this serious trap of like, Chewy, I've been training for 6 months and I'm still getting smashed and I'm thinking about quitting. Well, so what? Like, who said you were supposed to be better in 6 months? Maybe it's going to take 8 months. who said, I mean, there's no linear progression for anyone, right? So it's like, it's going to be different for everyone. And it might require some work. Now again, going back to it, in my bearded opinion, I think referring to it as the grind is part of this insidious habit that we have sometimes of over identifying with doing hard stuff. I mean, because you couldn't possibly be enjoying yourself, could you? If you're having fun, you're not working hard enough. I mean, you see this all the time with business, where like, if you're not beating yourself senseless in some masochistic way, then you can't possibly be working hard, right? Or working properly. You need to go harder, right? You need to be getting up at 4 a.m. You need to be sleeping for like 4 hours. Like, you can't sleep that long. That's lazy. You got to go grind it. You got to hustle. You got to get after it, right? And I think it's that same thing. But again, when you think about the reality of most of what we do in jiu-jitsu is play, it's a game. Rolling itself is 100% a game we use to prepare ourselves for things like competitions, fights, and self-defense situations. And so again, I consider it work, right? But work is meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Work brings a lot of purpose into our lives, right? Especially if you're doing something that you enjoy. Work is it's a great thing. So I don't consider it a grind. And I think that people, if you truly consider jiu-jitsu a grind all the time, like you're getting yourself up, and you treat it like a job you hate, like you're like, okay, I got to get up and I got to go train. God, I don't want to train. Oh, what a grind, right? If that's the way you go into it, you should quit. Do something else, because your relationship with training is going to last a lot longer than a lot of the relationships you have with people, right? I've been training since I started lifting weights when I was like 12. Started doing wrestling when I was 15, started jiu-jitsu when I was 18. I'm 36 years old. So for the better half of my life, I've been training. My relationship with training has long lasted, and it has outlasted most of the relationships I have with people. So why would I do something I don't like? Why would I do something that I'm like, oh, what a grind. I got to get up and do this thing. Now, again, we could be just getting into semantics, right? Because I'm talking about work versus grind. But again, I like work. Like, I like going out and doing stuff that is meaningful to me. I like doing things that I enjoy doing. I'll lift weights. I'll like roll. I'll diet. Like right now I'm dieting for my, trying to lean out a little bit. That it's hard work to some degree, because I got to prepare my meals. I've got to weigh everything out. I've got to, not eat certain foods and all this stuff, but it's like, whatever, it's fine. It's a little bit of work, to do. It's a little bit of work to do all those things, but it's like, I like that. I'm okay with that. I'm not simply grinding through it and being miserable, and I think that's the difference. When I think of that word grind, I think about it being like almost miserable, like why do you want to be miserable doing something, and the reason I bring this up is because I see so many people, they struggle with this and maybe you have to get somewhere before you realize this. But in most of the things that I've done in my life that are worthwhile, things that I'm like, what, I'm pretty proud of that stuff, or I'm really happy I accomplished those things, or they were things that I went into with goals that I was trying to chase after. An interesting thing takes place where once you get to the thing that you're after, you're like, oh, wait a second. Like, there's more. Like, that wasn't it. Like that goal that I got, fine, whatever. And it's like, once you set those aside, and you almost, doesn't mean you don't work your tail off. You do. You work really hard. You do those things, but you do so in a sort of a joyous way where you're enjoying yourself the whole time, and you're not putting so much even with like the business stuff, like play around with it, have fun with it. Like if you're working hard on it and stuff, just do something that like gets you excited about doing it, and have fun with it in a joyful way. All of a sudden, it's like things just propel even faster. So like with my jiu-jitsu, the minute I got rid of like this like neurotic sort of whole like ideal on it, where I'm like, I gotta be this good, and I gotta win this tournament, and I gotta do right. Or when I was competing, I'm like, I don't want to lose and all this stuff. The minute I got rid of all that crap, it was like all of a sudden I got so much better. My game got better, my training got better, my competitions. I look so much better in competitions than I used to. With the business stuff, like I would like sort of try to force it through and run myself ragged. And the minute I eased up off the gas pedal a little bit and said, like, I want to do this in a way where I'm enjoying myself the whole time, all of a sudden, any marker that I could possibly judge, the impact that I make on people, the money that's in my bank account, all of those things went up as I'm like just letting it happen, and like enjoying the work in it and doing it, rather than like being neurotic about it. And like, I gotta grind. Cause I was grinding, I was wearing myself out, and I felt miserable, like a slave to my work that I used to enjoy. Let go of that. all of a sudden I'm flowing with things. It's like the difference between it's like being in a rut versus a groove. If you're in a groove, you're flowing with things, right? You're flowing with the energy that comes from it. If you're in the rut, you're just stuck. And I feel like so many people get stuck because of that mindset, and I think, again, there's nothing wrong with hard work. And at times you might consider it kind of a grind, like maybe you're getting ready for a competition or something like that, and there are periods of time where you can get tired. Even then, I still never considered it a grind. But I just think that this over identification of it, because it's one of the things that was fun. It was interesting to look at the comments.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Wow. Okay, cool. Like, I like that perspective of it. Right. But then there were some people who were like, Chewy, I disagree with this. And they would talk about, man, I go hard and I do this and I'm grinding every day. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, talk to me in 10, 15 years. Let me know how it goes.
Yeah. Can you keep up that pace?
Can you keep up the mental side of it?
Sure.
Physically, you might break down, but can you keep that up mentally? Like, can you keep like putting your nose to the grinder forever? And again, maybe it just depends on what we consider a grind, but grinds aren't something I enjoy doing. They're not something I have fun with. And so I like doing things that I enjoy, and I'll work my tail off to do those things, but I enjoy doing them, and so therefore, like, there's multiple facets of those activities that I enjoy doing. It's not just like I want the end result. It's like in the moment, that process of doing it, all of it's good. So like, let's say if I had let's say I had a rough day at training. I might have a rough day, like where like physically, and I wasn't very sharp and I didn't get a lot of my moves going, but man, I got to hang out with my friends. We shot some, hung out, chatted a little bit for a little bit, and I had that social outlet there, which is a lot of times it's very enjoyable. Yeah. And then some days I'll come in and like be really sharp with the techniques. I'm like, oh, I'll feel good about that, and just all sorts of different things, So again, it's just an idea to chew on for you guys. Again, you may not find that one useful to you, but I just have found the less of I look at things like a grind, and the more I think about just working hard and enjoying the whole process, the better I've gotten, and the less I'm held back from doing the best that I possibly can in those different things.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people draw a parallel between a grind and doing something difficult. And what you're saying is that just because you do something difficult doesn't mean that it's a grind.
Right.
Like those don't have to like coincide. One means the other. Like doing difficult things, there's pleasure in doing difficult things. There's enjoyment. There's camaraderie as far as jiu-jitsu goes. I would just say that there's parts of jiu-jitsu, and you kind of touched on that. There's parts of jiu-jitsu that can be more of a grind, like something you may not enjoy. Like people always talk about drilling, right? Or maybe doing things like cardio or something like that may, supplement your jiu-jitsu well. Those can seem like a grind, but I think a lot of it's your perspective, right? Like you're doing a tournament. Yeah, some aspects of doing a tournament where you have to maybe cut weight, or you may have to really drill and be, you can't play around with techniques. You've got your A game or your game plan. You have to really do that. And sometimes it gets redundant a little bit, can get a little boring sometimes, right? However, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? That's not all you're doing unless you're competing all the time. People even compete all the time. They're in that zone. They don't have to be, really A, B, C game plan. They can still play around because they're so used to competition. So I think like there's not always a parallel between a grind and doing something difficult. Jiu-jitsu is difficult.
No, sure. Yeah.
But there's so many fun aspects about it, and you actually enjoy. There's so many things about it that we enjoy that I think keeps us coming back for it,
And it's worthwhile to design things. Now, if you're brand new, you don't have this ability, but as you get more and more into it, you can design things, right? So for instance, like if you don't want to drill, don't drill. Like first off, why do you have to drill? I mean, if you're a hobbyist and you're just coming in a couple days a week, then who gives a crap? Like just train. Now, if you just want to get a little bit better, one of the best things I can encourage you to do is if you don't like drilling, then roll with lower belts and roll with them with a very specific purpose is what you're going to use on them. Don't go in there and just like casually step on the mat and say, I'm going to use this move. That was something I did a lot as a black belt when I didn't always have drilling partners. And, it's a very fun way to drill. Basically say, I've got this guy who like literally I can destroy left and right. So I'm going to use this new move that I'm working on. And that's the only move I'm going to try to use on them. Right.
Yeah.
It's a great way to drill. It's a great way to sharpen your techniques in a situation, and you bypass the monotony of drilling. I don't mind drilling because I feel like drilling it almost reminds me of lifting weights. Like when I lift weights, you're moving in and you're starting to, especially when you're doing like higher reps and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not so much with like 1 reps, but with the higher reps, you're like starting to get this mind muscle connection, and you can feel this body as you're moving through, and you can kind of feel the muscles contract, and you can feel everything working, and you just breathe and you move and you count, and this just meditative in a way. And when I drill, a lot of times there's this thing where I can feel my body getting in sync. And as I'm doing the movements, I'm breathing and I'm getting that rhythm with it. And as I'm getting that rhythm increasingly gets better and better, I love that feeling.
Yeah.
I love feeling like all of a sudden when a move originally took like all of my conscious thought to like put together, and then after drilling it, several hundred times, all of a sudden I'm doing it automatically and I'm not even thinking about it. And then all of a sudden now I'm at another higher level thinking.
Yeah.
Because then I can think about, okay, like how does this feel? And I'm getting that feels wonderful to me. And it's just like lifting weights, where I associate the hard work that's going into those things with the end result of what's going to happen later, right? It's like when I lift weights, I got up this morning, got up a little early, and banged out a leg day. It was friggin' rough. I was tired and my legs were burning. I remember one point I was on the belt squat machine and I was doing like these 5-second eccentric on the squats.
I love that.
And for 12 to 15 reps, whichever one. And I literally, my quads buckled at 14. I fell over. I was like, I had to stop. I was like, oh shoot, man. I was like, that was good. Right. And I love that. I was like, it's like hard, but it's like, okay, what I'm thinking is in, a few weeks, that's going great. That's going to that's going to make me feel, that's going to be good. And I love the feeling after a lift, that endorphin rush after, oh my God, I feel great. My mind's like flooding with good feelings and everything else. Same thing with jiu-jitsu. I go train, even if I'm really tired, like with the day, I'll roll. And then all of a sudden, like I'm flooded with good feelings afterwards. So, again, is it difficult? Sure. But again, I just don't necessarily consider the grind. And again, you can always change it. You don't always have to do things the way that they've always been done. You can change them. Like even in your like life, if there's things you don't like that are like a true grind for you, change them. Why can't you change them? People get so stuck that this is the way it's supposed to be. Why? Because it's always been that way. To change it, do something you want to do.
Because it's always been that way.
It's always been that way.
There's a fear. There's a fear of change. There's a fear of the unknown. I think those are some deterrents for sure. There's a pressure, whether it's societal, family, there's a lot of pressure there, like to do something that's unconventional or do different things, or say, like even for me, like going down and like spending more time, not working as much, spending more time on the podcast and doing stuff like that. I had my parents like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? I was like, I love doing it. And let me tell you, podcasting in itself is sometimes can be seen as a grind. There's parts of podcasting that aren't the most fun ever. This is the fun part. I'm in there like editing stuff and sitting at the computer,
cutting up stuff.
That's not the most fun ever, but there, like you said, there's a meditative component to it, because I get in like, I don't have to really consciously really focus as hard. And the same thing with like jiu-jitsu or weightlifting. There's a movement like for that. That's like I see it as a movement meditation.
Yeah.
Because it's not really, it can be taxing on your nervous system, if you're doing some really heavy weight, but like if you're pretty comfortable, you're like a mid-range weight and you're working that weight and you're still getting a good pump, good resistance, it's kind of enjoyable, and you also know what the end result is. And that sometimes is you see that carrot and it's like very, it almost makes you smile a little bit, because it's, you're working towards something valuable to yourself, whether you look better, you're stronger, you can have better, more resilient against injuries, whatever it is. I think that's really important.
When there's satisfaction with like job well done.
Yeah.
I mean,
completing
like
something.
Yeah, it feels good. Like, after when you're done with the podcast, I'm sure you're like, got one in there, and you get to post it. When you get to release it and everything else, there's satisfaction. When you lift weights at the end of the lift, there's satisfaction with a job well done. When you go into the gym, very rarely, and I can count on a hand and have fingers left, how many times I've really had bad days at the gym. Like when I'm talking about bad days, I'm talking about like I left the gym and I was like bad, like I was in a bad mood. It's happened like maybe twice. The rest of the time, it's like, I'll get frustrated with myself during things.
Yes.
In the grand scheme, it's like, I still love this. I'm going to come back tomorrow because I enjoy doing this. I'm mad at myself because I made a stupid mistake, but I love doing this. Like, so what? I lost and got caught with the same damn submission I've been getting caught with it's like every day on this guy. You know what? I still love it. I'm going to come back tomorrow. But like leaving in the gym where I'm like, God, I'm just like heated, that's happened like twice, because again, it's like I enjoy doing it regardless of what happens. Yeah. And at the end of the day, at the end of the train, even on injuries, even when I had like meniscus tears and like stuff like that, I still didn't leave the gym upset or angry or wanting to quit. I was just like, them's the breaks. It just happens. It's just something that happened, and it's it's like my friggin' hair growing. It's just nature. Some things your body breaks down sometimes, and things happen rather than putting some sort of good or bad idea towards it. It just just friggin' happened once. Just accidents happen.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and not blaming too. That I think that helps me to not be putting blame on myself or others, whether it's an injury or doing something. Sure. Like try to all right, what can I learn? What can I take from this? I've had some, I had a fracture my arm, and it was a stupid thing I did. It was my doing. Although I didn't fracture my arm, it was something I could have done differently.
Sure.
But you have so much time to reflect. And even when you leave the gym pissed off, there's always something you can learn. And if you don't learn something from a bad day at the gym, I'm not saying it's good to lose or have shitty days, but you're always going to, I think more often than not, you can learn something. It may not be this huge eye-opening thing, but you can learn something from a shitty day. I'm not going to do that anymore. Or even if you're surviving with someone that man, this person has my number. Every time I roll with them, they have my number. But man, this time they didn't submit me. They may have got me in a bad position, but they didn't submit me. That, you're learning every time. So that's why I've got some people at the gym right now that some black belts that I've kind of been, they give me a hard time.
Yeah.
And so I've used that as I'm not getting in bad positions as quickly, or I'm being able to counter more. So for me, even though I wasn't winning the roll, I still find some silver lining, some benefits there.
Well,
which is nice.
And this is the thing that jiu-jitsu, some people they'll ask sometimes too, how has jiu-jitsu changed your perspective of life, right? And one of them is you become desensitized to what the failure. You become desensitized to losing, and you don't give it some sort of worth of whether it's good or bad. It just happens, right? If you do anything, right, you're going to fail, right? And the thing is, it's what's going to happen. If you try anything in your life that's causing you to stretch, you're going to fall flat on your face. It's just going to happen, right? There's no escape to that. And it's when you again, when you over-identify with things, just with losing, there's several black belts in the gym that are better at certain positions. Okay. Let's take Evan, he's got good leg locks. When I roll with Evan, I can play my A game and I can take his back. And from there I can sometimes choke him, sometimes I can't, but I'm good at holding the back on him, right? Tough dude to submit. If I put myself into his leg lock game, he's at a distinct advantage. And a lot of times he can catch me and stuff. If I was afraid to fail, right, and I took it personally, I wouldn't be able to learn from those situations. Sometimes I don't always do it, but sometimes I stick my leg right in there because I'm let's play this game because you're better than me here. And I want to get better from this position. So I need to work with this. If I was afraid to fail, or I was too attached to I have to win, then I would not do that, because I'm no, I can't lose to Evan because I beat Evan because I take his back and then I hold the position, right? And I get the better of him in the exchange. So I have to do this, opposed to, well, I could do that, but I could also get better leg locks right here. So if I want to get better leg locks, then I should play this game, right? And so that the attachment there, and again, you take it so damn seriously. There's times to take it seriously. There's times to go after it, right, and do it. But again, it's that seriousness is a trap, because then it's you can't even enjoy it. You can't have fun with it. You can't explore. You can't try things. You can't fail because you're taking it too seriously. I gotta win. I gotta improve. I have to, at the end of the class, or at the end of the month, or at the end of whatever. I gotta have something to show for it. It couldn't have just been that I had a good time. It's I have to make progress. I have to get better at this move. I have to beat this other guy that's been beating me up in the gym. And I got to be better than him. And there's nothing wrong with having the white rabbit to chase after. That's fine. That's competitiveness is always a good thing, right? We go back and forth and we push each other up. But when you take it too seriously is the problem, I think. And again, maybe this isn't for everybody, but I see this a lot of times with people inside the gym. When they come in, I get messages from people that are suffering from this type of thing. And I did it all the time back in the day. And the minute, when I got rid of that stuff, it wasn't an instant process. It was like slowly chipping away, you know. It was like all of a sudden, like things opened up for me. You know, it's like all of a sudden now I'm having fun. I'm competing better. I'm rolling better. I enjoy myself more. It's a much more like enjoyable process rather than like, you know, driving to the gym, white knuckling the steering wheel because I'm like trying to amp myself up to get ready to try to do good today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or when I lost matches, I couldn't even learn from them because I took it so personally that I lost. I would blame myself, and I would, you know, my ego didn't like it. So therefore, like I would take it so personally that, like, again, you know, I wouldn't learn from those situations.
Yeah. Well, the common theme that you've mentioned a few times is not being needy, like not being needy for money, not being needy to find a girlfriend, not being needy to win or to be good at jujitsu, whatever that means, you know, like that's kind of, I think you let go of that, let go of that grasp, you kind of open up opportunities, open up a little bit more of different situations. Cause I think with jujitsu, even you do take a little bit, if you kind of open up, like you said, don't play your game. There's an initial downslope.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you take a little bit of a dive in your success rate, whether quote unquote winning, whatever that means, but you take a little bit of a dip, and then you start to kind of come up, and then you can play that game that you're not very good at. You can actually, all right, I can get in a leg entanglement and stick around and actually start to attack and defend. And that's progress, you know, but that's hard. That's a hard thing to do. Like that's very difficult to like you said, the ego, which, you know, everybody has an ego and there's important parts of the ego, but there's also the other side of the ego that's like, I can't lose. I can't show any dents in my armor. And it's, you know, it's a tough thing for people to, especially when, like, I think when you're used to, maybe if you're used to winning, like you're an athlete that's been very successful in other parts, not in jiu-jitsu, maybe other sports, and you come in and then now you're the nail and you haven't been the nail in a long time. It's hard to do that. So you're going to use your strength and your whatever to, you know, be rough maybe, or what have you, use your strength to overpower when you don't have the skill and you're not going to learn the game, which again, you'll get so far and then you get left in the dust sometimes.
And yet the ego, again, it's a tool, right?
Yeah.
You just don't want to let it take the driver's seat, right? It's a tool to be used. And, you know, here's something to consider. I don't know about everybody else, but like when I get into a flow state, we all get there sometimes where you're just like flowing, whether it's like with your work, whether if you do some sort of creative task. My videos and writing are an example of that. Like sometimes like I'm doing videos, bro, and I'm like, they're just flowing. Sometimes I'm writing like emails or writing messages to people. And I mean, it's just coming off and beautiful ideas. Sometimes I'm writing in my journals and like just ideas are flooding through. I'm like, these are such cool ideas. Sometimes I'm rolling and it's just like, I'm doing stuff I've never seen before. And I mean, it's amazing. And anytime I get into a flow state, it's never come during a period of where I was like, I got to win this thing. I got to do really well. It never came from those. It always came from when I was just kind of, all right, let's do this. And just you go with it. Because it's like, you know, it's energy, right? We're just flowing with it. You just go with it rather than trying to make it happen. You know, even like on dates, you know, the periods where like I can think of like, you know, when I'd meet someone when I was like super witty and sharp during the day, you know, it happened when I didn't care. Like if I didn't care, if I didn't care about how the date went, it's like all of a sudden I was incredibly charming, right? Because I didn't care. I'm like, if you don't like me, I don't really care.
That's right.
You know, and it's all these things. And so again, like, and with competitions, the less I care. I mean, I care and I want to win. Don't get me wrong. I want to win. It's this weird kind of thing. It's hard to explain with language, right? It's more of a feeling. I want to win, but I don't care about winning.
I think you care more about different things.
Well, here's the deal. I've held medals in my hand. I remember like the first time I won a Nogi Pans medal. I thought it was a big deal. Like I remember thinking that was a big deal of a medal to win, right? From the time I was very young, I remember seeing guys win like Pans and Nogi Pans medals. And so for me, I attributed a certain amount of authority and weight to that medal, right? And I remember winning my first one. I was like, I won. I got the gold medal, and I did it in like good fashion. Like I it was like overall, it was like I ended up I submitted both my opponents, and I racked up like 20 something points to 0. Right? I had a phenomenal performance, and I remember getting it. And I looked, and I stared at the medal. I was like, stuff it in the bag on my way. It was like, it wasn't even a big deal. It was like, oh, this is like, it's not a big deal. It's so unimportant. And that's why maybe like once you get to a certain point and you achieve something that you thought was important, and then you get it and you're like, oh, it really isn't that important. And, there's all these things. And, and for me, like sometimes you can lose sight while you're chasing after things, but getting into those flow states always come from a place of like being outcome independent, right? You're independent from like your state of mind. How you feel about yourself is completely independent from the things that happen. Like as far as what you do, like bad things will happen, good things will happen. Like if I lose a tournament, I don't go and go, I'm terrible at jiu-jitsu, I'm terrible, I suck, blah, blah, blah. And like I feel down. I used to when I was younger, stupid. Now I'm like, I lost a tournament. I've won some, I've lost some. If I go into the gym and like I'm just off and like one of the friggin' like young guys like, beats me, I'm like, it happens. I was like, I was a nail today. I don't leave home and get upset about it. If I do something business wise, like I've done plenty of stuff related to the business that just absolutely flopped, bro. I don't go and go, I'm terrible and I need to stop doing this. No, it's like, God, it's like if you're if you're if you're afraid to be embarrassed a little bit, like that's a problem. You got to be able to fail. You got to be able to like fall flat on your face and just go with it,
Yeah.
And not take it so seriously. I mean, because we're all going to do it,
Yeah, I think it is important to fall flat once at least.
More than once.
Well, I'm
once,
just saying. I'm saying it's important at least.
Dude,
I said at least once. No, I'm not saying I haven't fallen on my face more than once.
I've hit my face flat like innumerable times.
That's not what I'm saying. I think people really, really avoid that experience.
Sure,
but it's got value. I mean, it can break you or it can light a fire underneath you. And I've had that, in the gym, like we had a tournament and I had that.
Yeah.
I had it bad. I lost like all my matches or something.
Oh yeah. You got crushed right in front of all of us.
Dude, that was hard to deal with.
Oh yeah.
And
been there.
It sucks. But man, do you learn? Well, you can say, fuck this shit. I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. Or you can get the hell back on the horse.
That's how you respond.
You have to though, because like for me, it'll just eat at me until I do something about it. Like it will eat at me and it'll maybe get easier in a while. But like, dude, I'm one of those people, and my wife will tell you this. If I have an issue or something's bothering me, I want it resolved like today.
You don't have to. I know this.
I want it fucking resolved, dude. I don't want to deal. I don't want to linger on it. Like, what's going on? Let's figure this out right now.
I feel like that's a guy thing. Like, because like, for
dude,
instance,
I just can't sit with it, man. I it's my thing. And like, so it lights a fire underneath. I don't want to feel that. And so it does motivate me. I think it's sometimes okay to be motivated by fear. You want to be motivated by other things, but sometimes fear works. Fear is a hell of a motivator.
Fear is a great motivator.
It sucks. I don't like to use it as a motivator, but sometimes.
Oh, dude, fear. I mean, you want to light a fire under your butt. Fear is a great one.
Yeah.
I mean, fear is a great one because I mean, a lot of times those negative emotions that we feel, what we consider negative, those are powerful motivators because we typically respond stronger to negative associations, negative feelings. I mean, this is why the news doesn't post like good stuff. Like they post everything with like this negative slant where everything, I mean, you watch the news and you see this, it's always like, it is the end all, this is everything's on the line. Like, and it's not, because in 2 weeks, it's going to be something else. It's the same way. It's like, it drives me nuts. Like people I'm like, just wake up, bro. Like they keep doing this. They're independent outlets that you can get a hold of where they'll send you the facts. And I like those because I'm like, tell me like both sides of this story. Just lay it out there for me and let me decide what I want to feel rather than like, everything's on the line with this one coming to you at 10, that kind of, it's like, get out of here. Right. But we respond to those negative feelings more than we do like happy ones. And so it's a hell of a time sometimes where, especially when you start doing well for yourself or you start getting kind of good, it's super easy to get complacent. So sometimes like a nice little bit of fear, swift kick in the ass, some negative stuff, it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I think that certain people like in that Michael Jordan documentary, right? How he would like kind of cook up these stories about what someone said to him.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and then these people were like, I totally didn't say that. He was so at the top, right? Where again, like he's just at the top of his game and he's very good. He probably had to do something to, again, conjure up some emotion to get him to get after.
Yeah, he had to light a fire underneath him.
Yeah.
And
so you
when
can do that
you're so good, you know, when you're so good like he was, like he could literally will his team to win by himself. And that was interesting. That was one of his. And I think I read Grit, maybe she was talking in Grit. They were talking about Michael Jordan, kind of how some of that could be a negative, like using those type of tactics. But I think it worked for him, because the reason why she said it could make it be a negative, because you're kind of a jerk to other people. You do this thing where you're kind of a nasty person. Your whole perspective is on this winning and how you're going to get yourself to the state of winning.
Sure.
That you're willing to get in fights with your teammates and cause, you know, conflict there, because it drives you. But that's, I guess, what you're willing to do to win.
It's hard. It's a hard thing, because I mean, for what they're doing, I mean, like, you want to be, I mean, they're trying to win a championship.
Sure.
Like, it's not always going to be fluffy clouds and rainbows, right? I mean, like, it's a tough sport.
Sure.
I mean, because everything's super competitive, you know? And even like The Rock, like I you know, he's one of the guys I like. The Rock, like when he's followed his stuff.
The Rock's awesome.
He's like, anytime I'm like, kind of like, sometimes I'm like, I'm contemplating, I was like, do I want to take a rest day or do I want to lift today? You know, one of his videos will pop up and like, we're in Iron Paradise, you know, like, I'm lifting. But then
he posts that him and like eating like all this sushi and like all these cookies and stuff. All right. Yeah, I'm on board. He's got two sides. He's got both sides. He's got the side where
it's his cheat day.
Yeah,
he's earned it.
Dude, it's like a cheat freaking
for his
week.
His
in one day.
Well, his calorie intake, bro. He's like, dude's like probably getting close to 300 pounds. So he's a huge dude. So like, I mean, that's probably really not that much food for him. Yeah. I mean, I'm eating like 31, like on my lifting days, I'm eating like 3,100 plus calories. I'm losing weight. You know, because I'm like,
what you're eating too, and then
right. But I mean, but it's calories. It's what I'm eating, but at the end of the day, it comes down to calories.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if I'm expending more and taking in less, I'm going to lose weight.
That's right.
It doesn't matter if it's cheeseburgers or if it's into the composition of your body might be different, but again, I'm going to lose weight.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the hell I was talking about.
We're talking about like,
The Rock. So The Rock, like, you know, one of his stories that he talks about was like, you know, one of the things that motivated him was like getting kicked out of football and then being left with like $7 in his pocket.
Yeah.
Right. So like, fear, superpower for motivator, you know? And if you read, I've read so many biographies, and you see this thing where a lot of times the warm, fluffy, motivational guru and be nice to everybody kind of thing, that kind of stuff like that they talk about generally doesn't drive some of the people that are like the highest performers. Now, again, you got to be careful getting into the trap again about being too serious about everything, especially with like jiu-jitsu, right? But at the same time, like, when you have some of these negative emotions that pop up, you can view them in that light as a negative thing, or you can say, it's a gift. Thank you. Like, this is going to shake me out of my funk. This is going to shake me out of my complacency and let me run with this and harness this energy, right? Because it's energy, right? If you have positive energy, you got negative energy, right? They both have their things, right? Instead of letting that negative energy go to waste or consume you, harness it for something, use it. I mean, that's like, dude, some of the things that I've done out of fear or even competitiveness, like, I want to beat that person, right? Whatever. I mean, just, it's always been that way. But again, it just is what it is.
It can be helpful. It also can be a deterrent. You just have to kind of balance it.
Yeah, I just think you have to. I think you have to figure out what works for you. But again, I think that a lot of times we give names to things, right? We give names to feelings and to emotions, and we try to say it's a good or a bad emotion, but who's to decide that, right? Because I mean, you can look back in history, and many of the virtues of the past are now vices, and vice versa. Many of the vices of the past are now virtues, right? So it's like, who's decides it's a good or a bad thing, right? Who decides? Society?
Yeah.
You figure out for yourself. Is it working for you? Is it helping you? Then you decide. Even like this, I'm talking about these different ideas. Like, if calling it the grind genuinely helps you, call it the grind. Call it whatever you want, right? I don't like to call it that because I think it's a negative thing for me. Like, I don't find it very useful personally.
Yeah.
But that said, someone else might find it super useful, and they might identify with the grind and love it. That's okay. Yeah. Right? Again, we're just talking about ideas here. But again, we like to give a good or bad. We like to put everything in a box, including people, and things, and ideas and emotions. We want everything to be nice and neat, when the reality is everything's just happening.
Yeah.
Just, it's all over the place.
There's not always a box for everything.
Well, and those boxes are changing. because you are not going to be the same person that you were 2 seconds ago. You're constantly in flux, right? Your cells are constantly changing and replicating, right? You're not the same person you were just from the beginning of this podcast, right? And none of us are. We're all constantly changing. We're taking in new information. We're becoming different people.
Yeah.
Our bodies are always in a state of flux. The world's in a state of flux. Like the society's in a state of flux. Nothing's going to be the same. And so like, again, trying to like put everything in a box creates all this issues where you're like, I had everything nice and neat and together, and then things shifted.
Yeah.
Right. What am I going to do? Right.
So do you think
we got all kinds of crazy
we always do. Do you think there's any benefits to calling it a grind? We kind of talked to some people like associate with that, like they're drawn to a difficult thing or calling some. Do you think there's any benefit in calling jiu-jitsu a grind? Not for you, but for anyone else.
If it gets you to work hard and you enjoy yourself, then fine, call it a grind. But if you keep calling it a grind and you're like miserable, then I mean, hey, just keep it in mind. You know?
Right.
Again, I see people like, like I said, there's this over-identity. And the only reason I share it from the standpoint is because I've done it. Like I over-identified with the grinding of everything.
Yeah.
Where I couldn't do anything just because I wanted to do it.
Just because you enjoyed it.
Right. And like, it's almost like I remember getting to the point where like, I remember some of the things that I did work-wise became easy. And I'm not grinding anymore because now I've gotten so good at those particular jobs that I'm becoming efficient.
Yes.
And I'm enjoying them more. That doesn't feel like grinding to me. Dude, I remember feeling like one time, like this is like coming out of like, so back in 2017, this was a grinding period for me. It really was a grinding period. And I saw it that way. And I was like waking up super early. I was working late. And I went down to Florida. And I was like, man, I feel like I'm killing myself.
Just to clarify, you did your little vacation.
My vacation, yeah, by myself. Yeah. So I went down there and just like, I didn't talk to anybody. Just walked around, like maybe a hello there, whatever. But it's basically walking around, not talking to anyone. It was just quiet time, and sit on the beach for hours just by myself, just like thinking. And I wrote my journal. I was like, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want this whole thing to look like right now? Because I'm in this place where I get to kind of decide. I mean, I'm kind of my own boss. I mean, I got to pay the tax man, but otherwise I get to decide what I'm going to do. So what do I want this whole thing to look like? And then I remember about a year later, like things were good. Like all of a sudden, I remember I was like lifting weights at noon, and I hadn't been up. I got up at like, 7, which is a reasonable time, and I was lifting weights at noon. I'd gotten a lot of work done. I was pretty much clear for the day. I was like, I'm going to go train and do jiu-jitsu around 6, but otherwise I'm good. And I felt like I was like, I feel like I should be doing more. But then I realized that, I went back and I looked at like the plan that I'd set out for myself, right? I had like I wrote out the day-to-day thing that I had put in my journal. I was like, it came to like, I literally had like positions built out. I was like, I need someone to fill this position and this position and this position. And I want to work on these days and I want to do this on these days. I want to have this day off. And all those things kind of just came into place. But then like, once it came there, I was like, I felt like I was being lazy. But at the same time, I was being more productive. At the same time, it was weird. So I was getting more done while I was enjoying myself more. And I felt guilty for it because I was like, gosh, I'm supposed to be grinding.
Something doesn't make sense.
I'm not grinding hard enough. I'm not grinding hard enough. I'm not waking up with bags under my eyes because I got a full night's sleep. And like, I got to actually have dinner with Jess last night because I didn't come home at 11 at night, And so again, like that is in my eyes, that is you're out of whack. You're out of balance, And again, maybe there's periods of time where you have to do that. And we've all been there. It is what it is. But eventually, like, again, I was grinding for a while and I was enjoying that. But then once I came back to normal, sort of a normal thing, then it's like, I couldn't even enjoy it because I felt like I wasn't working hard enough or grinding hard enough, that kind of thing. So, again, and this is why these are my ideas and I'm sharing with you guys, because again, I know that some people might identify with them. Then again, you may not, but maybe there's something there for you.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question. I want you to give me maybe one reason. Why do you think that people quit jiu-jitsu? Give me one reason you think, maybe what you've seen through your years, and this is not, doesn't have to be right, doesn't be wrong. It's your opinion. Of course. It's your idea. It's what you've seen, the people you've come in contact with through your 20 plus years of grappling experience. Why do you think people quit jiu-jitsu?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. Here's one.
All right, let's do the main one. Then you give me a couple caveats.
Let me get something out of the way first. So what I'm about to say is the main reason I see people leave.
Okay.
But what's interesting is whenever this question comes up, this has been asked on YouTube, people will immediately complain. Well, actually, it's because it costs a lot of money to do jiu-jitsu. And they'll complain.
Bullshit.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. People blow their money on the dumbest shit all the time, bro. Like all the time. I'm like, look, if it's something you really want, you will do it regardless. You'll figure out a way, because I've seen people where they say, oh, I don't have money for training. And then they go to the bar and they blow like $200 in alcohol. I'm like, you made a decision. You getting drunk on a Saturday was your priority more than training for a month. Right. Or you'll see people where they'll like, I don't have money to train, but then they'll go out and buy some super expensive, nice car that has like a hefty payment every month. I knew a guy who had a $700 car payment because he had this really nice sports car. I'm like, for what? Like you're car poor. $700, you're car poor, bro. Like, I mean, like
the worst. And talk to anybody. The worst investment.
I mean, he wasn't like he was making like, $500,000 a year. He's a regular dude. So 700 is a big chunk of his payment, like of his wage, right?
Yeah.
It's like, bro, what are you doing? Like that's a stupid idea. Like, go get something reasonable. Like, who gives a crap about what people think about you in your car that you're driving, right? Again, like, we were making a joke about this the other day. I was like, I could afford a much nicer car than I drive if I wanted to, but I don't care. It's like, who am I going to impress? Like, I'm here I teach jiu-jitsu and I have activities that I find meaningful.
Yeah.
If you really, really like cars and it's something you truly enjoy, then get that car, if you want it, but again, people blow money on whatever they want. So again, people with the money thing.
So that's the reason that you hear?
Well, no. That's just, there's people that like, they get upset when I say what I'm about to say. And again, sometimes if these things make people upset, the reality is it only makes you upset if there's a nerve of truth to it. Like comedy's only funny, or it only offends you if there's some truth to it. Because if it's not remotely true, it's not funny, right? Like when you listen to someone that's the comedic and they make a joke and everybody laughs, it's because it's an exaggeration a lot of times, but there's a thread of truth in there. Or when someone says something to you and it offends you or makes you upset, well, it's because there's some truth into it. Mm-hmm. If it was so preposterous, like I was like, Eugene, you got stupid blue skin, you're weird. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? Mm-hmm. But if we made fun of something that does affect you, that is you, then there's something there. So people get upset about it, but I'm like, well, that's just because it's true, mm-hmm. right? For a lot of you guys, and you don't want to admit it. Anyway, going to it. And we're not saying money doesn't play a role into it, because it does.
Sure.
But there's always workarounds. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to work around that, from, doing like work for the gym to simply prioritizing something else. I've been there before. Trust me. Anyway.
Clean the mats. Easy. Boom. Yeah. Ask if you can do something.
Or like just shave off money elsewhere. Yeah. I mean, I was a broke kid who worked and I just prioritized it. Mm-hmm. Now, again, that's not everybody's thing, but I prioritized because that's what I enjoyed doing.
Yep.
So I wanted to do it. I didn't have a lot of other hobbies. I had jiu-jitsu. That's what I wanted to do. But going to it, it's because, I mean, again, when it boils down to it, you got to find a reason inside of your heart as to why you want to train. Deep down, you got to find a reason that you want to train that is completely independent from any extrinsic thing that you're chasing after. Right. So again, there's medals that are going to come. There's promotions that are going to come. There's skill progress. There's being in shape. There's all these cool, like, external things that you're chasing, maybe. But then, like, some of this stuff has to come internally from you. Like, what do you want? And like, sometimes it can just be because you enjoy it. Sometimes you can't even, like, for instance, when I was younger, I couldn't even really put my finger on what it was. I just enjoyed being in the gym. And it wasn't until as I got older, I was like, oh, okay, here's all these different things that I enjoy about this experience that have nothing to do with medals or fighting, which is why I originally started training. I started training because I wanted to win fights and I wanted to win jiu-jitsu competitions, right? But then there were all these internal things that were going on that I didn't really realize at the time, but those were the main drivers. And if you find something that is internal to you, that is an intrinsic motivation, something that you want to do regardless of whatever else is going on, then you're good. You're set. Because you have something that's going to drive you, right? But if you're constantly in need of some sort of external thing, then that's the problem. And you see this where people will, like, they get the blue belt and they quit. You were chasing a blue belt instead of like it's something else, right? So you got that and then you quit because you got so excited about the blue belt and puttered out. Or you see people where they'll go to a competition and they'll put so much pressure on themselves. I've seen this happen so many times, and they'll like post about it online. Oh, I'm getting ready for my first competition. And I would have done the same thing, by the way, if I had Facebook when I was like 18, because when I would compete, I would tell everybody about it, right? But then they'll compete and they'll lose and they'll quit. It's like, why? Like, why is it? Why? Like, did God decide that you have to win? Right? These other guys wanted to win too. It's a possibility. I mean, like I lost like there'd be several times I lost like tournaments and I have to go back to work and they were like, how'd it go? I'm like, I got crushed, but it didn't mean I want to quit because I enjoyed doing it. And so I think if you can find things that you enjoy internally to you that are valuable to you on a day-to-day basis, minute by minute basis in the gym, that's what you need. You need something like that. You need something that's going to keep you going regardless of what else is going on. And I think if you can get that and you have a good environment, of course, then you'll be set. Because if you find a reason in your heart as to why you want to do something, I think that's the biggest thing too, is if you search inside your heart as to why you want something, you will make it happen. Like Jess and I were like, we were laughing because, like when we were like just talking about back in the day, like being in relationships and stuff. And because we're laughing, like we never want to go back to dating ever again, and we were like, remember, like, because like guys will say, oh, I'm just like, they'll make an excuse as to why they can't date a woman, right? I mean, women, I'm sure they do this too, but I've done it before where you're like, it's not you, it's just like I've got a lot of things going on, blah 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 blah. Make excuses, but the reality is, if the man wants to date someone, they will go to any ends necessary to be with that person.
Yeah.
Right. And because that's what they want in their heart, they want that person. And it's the same thing with anything else. Just like we were talking about money, like, okay, money, whatever. If you want it, you'll figure out a way to get it, and with jiu-jitsu, if you want to do it internally, if there's a reason why deep in you that makes you want to do it, you'll do it. You'll find a way to make it happen. You'll keep going regardless of what else is going on. I think, I believe, because this has been my experience and the experience I've seen with a lot of people.
Yeah. So they just don't have, you feel like they don't have their why. They don't have their reason for training.
And you're not going to always know.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know for a long time, so you're not always going to know. Sometimes it's just something where like, you just have a feeling, because again, this is the problem with words and language sometimes, because it's like so hard to express certain emotions and feelings that are going inside of you with like just the mouth noises we have, right? It's like, like it just is like, sometimes it's hard to express certain emotions and feelings that you have about things. And sometimes you haven't even really thought them through all the way. I think that's why journaling is such a valuable thing, because you can basically check in with yourself and just chat with yourself about whatever's going on.
Yeah. That's a valuable thing too. Journaling, actually. I know we're getting off topic, but that's
I think we've got off topic a lot on this one.
No,
we're all over the place.
No, we're scared. We talked about, you literally attributed one word to jiu-jitsu, and we have to go around that whole solar system, if you will. But no, I do think like that when you see that somebody's doing something for an extrinsic or external factor, then that's when you realize that once they achieve that, and if a blue belt, you stick around long enough, most people will be able to get a blue belt if they just show up and keep coming in.
Absolutely.
And so once you get that, you're going to realize, oh, this is not what it was, what I thought it was going to be, or what I thought it was going to feel like.
And maybe that's a part of it too, is I believe sometimes people, they come in with these grand expectations of what something is supposed to be like. Right. So for instance, here, we'll go back to the relationship thing. I feel like I'm not trying to turn into Dr. Phil here. Hi there, people. I'm going to talk to you.
Dr. Phil.
Yeah. With relationships, like, so a lot of times, like if you've ever had this experience where, let's say you were dating someone or you were trying to date this person, and I did this when I was younger. You build this person up and you put them onto a pedestal almost, where you build this person up and you imagine what this person will be like. Right. And then you end up being lucky enough to date them, and they're like, wow, I'm dating this person now. And then when you date them, you're like, whoa, this person is nothing like I expected.
Yeah.
Right. That's your fault. Like you placed that sort of, you put them in that box because you sort of turned them into an idol where you're trying to like, you're imagining the person to be this way. Right. And you do this sometimes with like jiu-jitsu where, you can go into it and you can watch videos. Like for instance, some people watch like, videos of like highlight videos or these motivational videos of jiu-jitsu where you have like, you got the music playing, you got Joe Rogan and Jocko and maybe Chewy every now and then talking on the back of it. Right. And talking about how glorious this thing is and how it's amazing and it changed my life, whatever. And then you go to the gym and you're like, God dang, dude, we're just a bunch of sweaty mongrels like roughing each other up. And you're like, well, this isn't what I expected. It's like, where's the like the classical music in the background? Where's like the life altering things that change, right? It's like, well, they're there. They don't happen so quick. They can't be sort of diluted into a 1 minute experience, right?
And sometimes they don't happen like
for years,
instantaneously. It's almost like a progression. It's like it's just like a gradual kind of flow.
And sometimes it's gradual, and sometimes it's like you're stuck on a brick wall.
Yeah.
And then one day it's like you hop over it. It's like, oh, hey, aha! I just had an aha moment. I just got better, and I just had an epiphany about something. Here we are, right? These happen all the time. And so, but again, it's about that process. But you have that kind of stuff all the time, and I think that a lot of people come in with these expectations of what things are going to be like, and again, like even like your connection to the people. Like a lot of times we say, oh man, the people, it's amazing. Well, you got to also show up. Like if you want to be connected to your gym, well, you got to show up, and it might take a while.
Yeah.
Like again, with relationships, it takes time, and we're only there. We only really talk with each other for a few minutes before, after class, and in between during rolls and stuff like that. So over time you develop a relationship, but it's going to take a little bit,
for sure.
So if you don't go in there and everybody doesn't know your name the first day, give them time, keep showing up, and you'll get connected into those groups. But I think that a lot of times people build up these big expectations of what it's going to be like. And then they're let down by the very like, what is the word? They're let down by this very primitive, sort of the primitive nature of it. It's not like this grand thing. You're just doing something.
There's a simplicity to it.
Yeah, it's simple. It's not like there's like the skies are not opening up and the God's not shining down upon you, giving you these gifts. It's like you're going through some stuff, and you started the beginner class, and then you got this guy who's overweight and he's got his armpits stuffed on your mouth, like
sweating.
Or you got put in a triangle and you're smelling a guy's crotch. Like this doesn't seem like life altering stuff here.
You haven't trained jiu-jitsu until somebody has sweat in your mouth. Then you know.
Oh God, dude. I mean, like
I've had that, and you're like, or they're in your eye.
Oh
like,
yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, or you had like you get smothered by some guy's belly because he's just laying in mount, and you're just like you're trying to breathe, and it's like wet t-shirt like gets caught.
Chris Nichols
being waterboarded.
Chris tries to does that like mother's milk choke. I'm like, you son of a bitch. I was like, damn it, and I hate it. I'm not gonna tap to. I will go out unconscious. Damn it.
I feel like you're being waterboarded.
Oh, you do, right? It's one of those things. You just kind of like chill out. Like, all right, well, I don't know. This is good.
Yeah.
Nothing good's going to come of this, but it is an experience. It's something fun you can laugh about too.
So I think that maybe that kind of gets to the nature of some things. Like, and again, this is kind of off topic, but a lot of times, like the end product that people see that seems very amazing, like and just so cool,
yeah,
is generally a byproduct of very mundane things, right? Like when you look at artists, I'm fascinated with artists and musicians and people of different things that they're the creative stuff, right? Because what we do in jiu-jitsu is very much an art form, and it requires a lot of creativity.
Sure, yeah.
And when you read about these artists, you might see these masterful works, or if you listen to a jazz musician and he goes on this beautiful, solo, right? And just tearing it up, amazing, right? Those products, those beautiful sounds, the sights that you're seeing, or whatever it is, those are the product of like very mundane things, like just repetitive practice and just doing stuff over and over again. Lots of failure, lots of like just stuff that's been abandoned, lots of works that they quit. It's mundane, right? So if you saw the people just sitting there plucking away, it wouldn't be very exciting to you.
Right.
But when you see the end result, and you see like in jiu-jitsu, for instance, you see these amazing performances, or you hear these people talk, or you hear the friendships that come from it, and you're like, it sounds so magical almost.
Right.
And it is to a degree, but it's very mundane. And I think that that's maybe something to keep in mind. Like with jiu-jitsu, it's a very mundane thing. There is magic to it, but it comes through mundane processes and very, like you said, it's very simplistic. So I think that a lot of people at certain times, they forget about that. So
yeah, no, I think jiu-jitsu is we're really doing something that's been done for years, hundreds of years.
Every civilization in history, for the most part, I mean, there's some exceptions, like sometimes you get striking type arts and stuff like that, but almost every civilization in history that we can find has some form of wrestling, right? Some form of grappling. Every one of them does. Like they have pictures depicting it, like, and we see different styles of wrestling all across the globe now that are part of these traditional cultures and stuff like that. We're not doing anything that hasn't been done. We are connected with, like, I always think about it, it's so cool. Like when you look at pictures of, say, like Roman statues or like artwork or whatever, you see like the wrestlers and stuff like that, and you'll see cauliflower.
I know.
You're like, we're connected with something. We're connected to our ancestors. We're connected to these former humans through a line of activity that's been going on since we know of, right? And I think that's kind of a neat thing that we have a connection to, that, again, a lot of people in today's society don't. A lot of people where they live and they live and work and they do everything in nice comfort, and they've never wrestled, they've never grappled, they've never boxed, they've never done any of these combat-like sports that have existed forever. Like, they don't know what that's like. They don't have that connection that we have to the past, that I think a lot of people, they don't understand it. Like, and that's why, like, people will, like, every one of us has run into this if you do jiu-jitsu. Why are you doing this?
That's weird.
Why? Huh? What are you doing this for? It's like, I don't know. I can't explain it. I just enjoy it. I just want to do it.
There's a feeling.
There's a feeling, and it's very hard to, like, put your finger on it exactly. Because again, it's language can sometimes be clunky at explaining, like, internally what's going on.
I agree.
All right, guys. So that was the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I was thinking about when we were doing the promotion reads early, when we were talking about Charlotte's Web and everything else. I was thinking about something. So one of the things that I used to have trouble with as I got older, when I was sleeping, because sleep is really important to me, right?
Sure.
So again, this is why I go through such, like, links where I take different supplements and I take CBD and I do all these things and I read and everything else to go to sleep. So one of the things, and it sounds funny, and I think we've talked about it on the podcast before, but one of the things that happens when you drink a lot of water is when you go to sleep, you got to wake up in the middle of the night and pee. So Jess went to a urologist, just check up stuff, whatever. I'm sure she's like, oh my God, why are you talking about this? But Nick, why are you talking about this? Yeah. Why? I don't talk about medical stuff. It wasn't a big deal. Just
we love you, Jess.
Like, just go to the doctor, check up stuff, right? But it came home with this pamphlet, and I remember reading the pamphlet, and I was like, huh. And it was saying that a lot of us, we urinate too much.
Too much.
Yeah. So basically, here's what happens. Let's say if you've got to go a little bit, and you're getting ready to go drive somewhere.
Yes.
You'll use the bathroom first and just leave. What you should do is not use the bathroom. You should wait, let it build up, and then use it when you get somewhere, when you really got to go. Because what happens is you urinate so much out of convenience that your body gets used to doing it, like, so much that your bladder, essentially, think about it with, like, when you eat food. If you eat food and your stomach eat lots of small meals, your body gets used to those little meals, and then you eat a big meal, you're like, oh my God, it hurts. Well, if your body is not used to, like, holding that much water, then you're going to wake up all the time from it. So I'm happy to say, like, I've been training my bladder, and I've been sleeping through the night. Like I can bare minimum, I'll get 6 hours. Most of the night's been getting close to 7 hours straight, bro. 7 hours of straight sleep with no, like, getting up in the middle of the night, using the restroom, coming back to bed. And then like, it's like such a pain to go back to sleep afterwards. Like sometimes
Yeah.
not sometimes it isn't,
Yeah.
but like, sometimes you go like, oh my God, can't get back to sleep. None of that. I just sleep. It's amazing. I know this sounds ridiculous. This is
not medical advice. This is just
No.
Chewy's. This is Chewy's bladder training protocol.
I'm not a physician.
Like new product coming out soon.
Take my word with a grain of salt. All I'm saying is that, again, instead of taking the tinkle all the time, wait a little bit and then take a big tinkle.
There you go.
This is advice from a urologist. But again, I'm not a medical physician, and you shouldn't listen to anything I say as medical advice. So you should talk to your urologist about it if you're having trouble with this. It's like almost a pharmaceutical commercial. Talk to your doctor. This drug could be great for you, or you could die.
Or it could cause your symptoms to be worse.
Yeah.
That's the shit that cracks me up. Take this thing for depression, but it might cause suicidal thoughts and make your depression worse.
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Meanwhile, it's just like this little happy cartoon that's going on. I think we're thinking about the big circle head that's like bopping around.
Oh God. I've got something to treat your sadness.
What's that?
Go exercise.
Go exercise helps.
It really does, man.
Go exercise, get out in nature, hang out with people.
Hang out in the sun, outside.
Go do something fun that you enjoy.
Choke people in an appropriate
go see
setting.
And see a therapist if you got some like straight.
That's right. Issues. That's important too.
Ain't nothing wrong with it.
Sometimes you need a little little happy pills. That's
all
right.
Well, it's good because sometimes you have those issues, and sometimes you just need help.
That is true. Go get help if you need it.
Yeah, if you get help. It's like we all need help sometimes.
Yes.
So no stigma about that. But no, I mean, I've been being dead serious about that. Like sleep's important. And
yes.
And so that's something I did to increase my like length of time with like rested sleep or unbroken sleep, which is huge.
Yes.
Like I mean, because I can wake like if I get like 6 hours of unbroken sleep, it's better than me getting like 8 hours of like in and out, back up and down sleep.
Sure.
So just something to chew on, guys. But again, go talk to your doctor. But anyway, again, thanks to our sponsor, Charlotte's Web. You can check them out again. I encourage people, if you've never tried CBD before, take it for a month, see what it does for you. Go get a tincture, get some gummies, whatever it is that you want. Try it out for a month. I give stuff to my students all the time, just free samples. And generally speaking, almost always they come back to me like, hey, what did you just give me? Where can I buy it? Whatever. Mm-hmm. And they like it. And again, so try it out for a month and see what it does for you, because all of our bodies are different. We respond differently to different supplements and things like that. So there's no guarantee. But if you're like many people around the world, it's amazing stuff. And so you can go to charlottesweb.com, promo code Jiu-Jitsu. You save 15% on the order for some amazing high quality CBD, not that bathtub stuff that they sell at the gas station or stores, like the legit stuff that's third party tested for purity to make sure that you are getting exactly what is in the label in that bottle and nothing more. Mm-hmm. Also, thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. You can go to epicrollbjj.com and you can get your hands on some amazing gear, jiu-jitsu gear and apparel, everything from t-shirts and joggers to, I mean, I had the joggers on just the other day and everybody was like, I really like those. I think I want to get some joggers made at some point, like a little thing. I think they're very comfortable.
Yeah, good to work out in and stuff.
But anyway, rash guards, shorts, gis, the whole thing. And again, I really like Matt's design. He makes them himself. He's got a knack for good designs, simple designs that I find appealing. So if you want to check them out, you can go to epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu to save 15% on the order. And thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this podcast as well. Manscaped.com. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu20. Save 20% on the order, and you get free shipping off of any of their amazing trimmers, balms, colognes, clippers, not clippers, but what are I guess trimmers? Trimmers. I guess they're all trimmers. Yeah, and razors. Basically, any of their men's grooming stuff that you want, check it out. Again, and I like all of their stuff. I haven't had anything from them that I was like, I don't like this. I like all of it. Yeah. Everything from the balms to the shavers and everything else. It's really good stuff. So you can check them out. And again, if you're someone that's training jiu-jitsu and you think it's a good idea to have a jiu-jitsu game plan in the works so that you know how your game works, then I would encourage you to go to my website at jiu-jitsu.net/join, JOIN, and you can download my Jiu-Jitsu game plan guide that I give away for free by joining up to the Chew Crew email list. Now, the Chew Crew email list is a daily email Monday through Friday most of the time, sometimes in the weekend, but usually Monday through Friday. Just know that getting into it. And I also give away a drilling ebook where I'll show you some strategies that I personally use. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're drilling like repetitions. There is that way, but a lot of it too is active drilling that I had to use, especially when I was like a young black belt and a brown belt, where I was training with training partners that weren't at the same skill level as me. And I had to find ways to like actively train techniques to make myself better. And so I share those things with you in both of those ebooks, and you can get those for free at jiu-jitsu.net/join. And if you'd like to support the podcast and get your hands on a ton of content from over the last few years that we've been doing the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. Once you're inside and you're logged in, you get access to episodes for where we had our guest. Every guest that we've had on the podcast, there is a unreleased episode or portion of the episode with them. We also have videos and some rolling in there, and there's different things in there. So again, if you'd like to get access to that extra little database, little chunk of content, you can do that by going to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. And guys, with that said, hope you enjoyed the podcast today. And as always, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.